And now I move on to another son of the soil. I think Junaid Mir is with us, a young, budding socio-political leader on the horizon. He is heading Jammu Kashmir Workers' Party, and he has recently also addressed the press conference and saying that Pakistan is in perpetual violation of the United Nations resolutions which had called upon the Pakistan to vacate the occupied areas, and instead of vacating it, uh, Pakistan is now grabbing it. So Junaid Mir Saab, floor is yours.
Good evening, Adab, and Assalamu alaikum to all. It's my honor to have been invited to such a beautifully organized webinar where we are discussing a highly strategic and misunderstood region of South Asia. I would not call myself an expert, but the basic knowledge of the history of my motherland is something I like to believe that I possess, and believe that it is through history and its education a lot can be changed on ground with regards to the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. I always like to start by saying that I belong to a generation which has not seen how Kashmir actually is. And me and the generations that follow me are in a way cursed to having been born in the most chaotic times in the history of Jammu and Kashmir. We have seen bloodshed, strikes, protests, attacks, and encounters, and have grown up in a highly charged atmosphere. The meaning of life to the generation that follow me is very limited in its scope. Some of you might be thinking that why is this young man describing his story when we are here to discuss a totally different topic? But I have a reason to say it, because the current status of situation of Gilgit Baltistan is also a historic culmination of events which are interrelated to the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. So I would like to create a relation between the events on both the sides and thus make the conclusion with the situation that is on our heads. So me and the generations have grown up in a religiously and communally isolated atmosphere where the breastfeeding of hate against India has been as normal as dinner. From their birth, children have been taught to hate India and love Pakistan. See, Pakistan is propagated as the messiah to the people of Kashmir. An open religious affiliation is carved to Pakistan, while India is called the land of Kafirs who have occupied the motherland by force. We have seen humongous protests being organized against India over the recent history of Jammu and Kashmir, and the insurgency is still a problem that is faced. And believe me, Pakistan, which is the actual offender of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, has reshaped its image in Kashmir, and it seems people seem to ignore the history of their land. The historic facts seem to emerge from the UN resolution of 1948, and the history before seems to be a blurry picture confused between the tribal invasion and the Jammu massacre in public discourse of Jammu and Kashmir. The people have been made to believe that Pakistan attacked J&K for the benefit of the people. If one observes that these discourses, one can see where the problem has been on in ground in Kashmir. The journey of India from being a hero to the people of 22nd October 1947 has turned into a villain in the folklore and legends regarding the history of Kashmir. This signifies the success of Pakistani propaganda that the separatist proxies have been able to permeate within the minds of commoners. The incomprehensive struggle of Kashmir is totally logical to the minds of people, as their isolation has given birth to such a logic that does not accept that Pakistan can do anything wrong to the people of Kashmir. This is where India over the past 70 years had failed in Kashmir. Kashmir was surrounded by walls of isolation, which ultimately led to the overpowering of the religious emotion within a few disgruntled psychopaths who went on the massacre people, from state and other faiths. This led to the exodus of pundits, and a communally charged atmosphere got conditions that would help to stabilize the norm of being communal and also racist. This emotion has been able to keep India at bay for years, and India has had to be very calculative while even talking about J&K, which is legally its territory. And you see, Pakistan in 1973 did to Gilgit and Baltistan, which India only did on 5th of August 2019. The occupier has seen, I call it Chor who has been able to do Sinazori, actually, when it comes to the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. And the shamelessness of Pakistan is quite a divergence from the norm. It's a country which is a joke in the name of democracy and a well known terror hub of the world. It is ruthlessness in approaching the rights of its citizens and the violation of rights of the people within its occupied territory, like Gilgit Baltistan, has gone unnoticed until recently in the world bodies and in the world powerful corridors. We are dealing with a shrewd enemy that uses religious monopoly to label any demand of rights as blasphemy and is able to escape global criticism as well as a genuine public uprising. The case of Gilgit Baltistan with its history can be better explained by fellow panelists. But when I want to stress on is the Indian response. India, until recently, had forgotten about the occupied portion, J&K, which is under the control of Pakistan. Pakistan, you see, during the last 70 odd years, has gifted a portion of its occupied land to China in order to make the issue trilateral. And in 1973, completely destroyed the state subject laws in Gilgit Baltistan. It has been able to conceive a demographic change within the region, and India had let all these heinous crimes of the occupier happen without any strong reaction. What I highly appreciate about the current incumbency of our country is that it has shed the defensive approach when it comes to the issue of Jammu and Kashmir and claiming what is rightfully and legally its own territory. The provincial announcement regarding the Gilgit Baltistan is a panic reaction enforced by Chinese government on Pakistan. And Pakistan's move makes the issue quite in favor of India. The reason being that Pakistan has always pushed a narrative for the freedom of Jammu and Kashmir, and Gilgit Baltistan is a part of the previous princely states of Jammu and Kashmir. This encroachment can be used strategically against this cunning creature I call Pakistan, as its efforts of disintegrating the conflicted region according to its own claims, and the motives of Pakistan towards Kashmir can be exposed both internationally and locally in Kashmir. It's now, you see, the game of good communication and honest presentation of historical facts that is critical to the shift of narrative in the public domain within Kashmir. I tell you, the issue faced by Gilgit population needs extensive following on part of India, and strong advocacy for their rights has the potential of turning the narrative that surrounds Kashmir. Sir, and with these words, I would like to bid goodbye to all the panelists, and I hope that we are someday able to get back what has been stolen away from us by an immoral and inhuman state called Pakistan. And with this, I conclude, sir. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you, Junaid ji. In your own enthusiasm and exuberance, you said that Pakistan is an occupier, illegal occupier of Gilgit-Baltistan.
True, sir.
And may I remind you that in February 1994, there was a unanimous resolution in Indian Parliament that Pakistan is holding illegally the territory of Jammu and Kashmir with it, and Indian state will not leave any stone unturned to retrieve it and get it back to the fold of Indian state. That is the resolution of February 1994. And thereafter, there is a consistent view of the policymakers that the illegal occupied Pakistan, occupied Kashmir has to be made join Indian Union at one point of time so that the wishes of the people of erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir state are vindicated. Thank you, Junaid ji, very much. And it is always enlightening to hear you as a young
A lot.
speaker, as a dynamic, enthusiastic speaker. Keep it on. We value your views, we value your life. Stay safe and
Thank,
stay healthy. Thank you very much.
thank you, sir.
I think Sunil, we have Dr. Saab in now.
No, Dr. Saab had joined, but then he has dropped off again.
Okay.
He had joined, he was there, but I think he got disconnected a little while back.
Uh-huh. So we would request our expert panelist, who is a security expert, military expert, geostrategic expert, and has a historical feel and the current feel of the situation around the area which we are discussing and its linkages with China and its consequences vis-a-vis India. Major General B.K. Sharma Sahab, floor is yours.
Jan Saab, you'll need to unmute yourself.
I said thank you, Ashokji, and thank you, co-panelists. I am speaking here not as a strategic analyst, but as a son of the soil, with a certain
Great.
degree of emotions attached to the whole discourse. Somehow, all those people who have been at the helm of affairs in Jammu and Kashmir, we have ironically glossed over the fact that we are a civilizational state and we are a strategic state. And we have constricted our whole view to electoral politics and devolving around, winning and losing elections. This is a great tragedy, which, among others, the people and the leadership of Kashmir have inflicted upon themselves. If you look at the state of Jammu and Kashmir, neither have we looked at it from the rear view mirror of history, nor our eyes set to the front, but we put our heads down like ostriches and we are pressing the pedal without knowing where our future of our generations is. Now, if you look at the history of Jammu and Kashmir, this was a state which was at the heart of the old Silk Route. You had connectivity from Kashmir to Kashgar, from Leh to Lhasa, and we were a thriving civilizational center. But the two great games in the past and one which is now panning out will impact our lives for times to come. For example, if you look at the 19th century great game, what was the outcome of that? That when, our, hello, I think there's a lot of this thing. Can I? Echo.
Ajit, the
Sometimes
echo is
I have
from
to,
your side. Others will have to mute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So now, if you look at the first great game, what was the discontinuity that occurred? That because of this Wakhan corridor, we lost connectivity to our civilizational neighbors, the countries like Tajikistan, Central Asian Republic, and I have spent 3 years plus there. I've been visiting that region. There was so much of cultural connect between Kashmir and that region. Then came partition and the way the whole territory of Gilgit-Baltistan was appropriated by Pakistan in collusion with British Empire. Again, we lost our borders with Afghanistan and we lost our borders with China. And now the third phase of the great game is staring us in the eyes, where China has become de facto a third party in Jammu and Kashmir dispute because of its strategic interest, and it has serious geopolitical and strategic implications for enduring peace and stability of Jammu and Kashmir. And I will explain that, though everybody has said that why Gilgit Baltistan is important for Pakistan, because it is through this region that they have borders with Afghanistan and with China. And for China, of course, it's a gateway to the Arabian Sea, which serves its strategic interest. In addition to this, China is also looking at this region in terms of its rich resources, like there are reports of uranium and certain other rare earth metals which are deposited in this region. And there is some kind of a collusivity which is today existing between these two countries. And that collusivity has geostrategic, geopolitical, and security implications. Their political and their military objectives, they coalesce as far as Ladakh region is concerned. And why I say so? Because if you look at the borders of Ladakh, now this area of Gilgit-Baltistan is contiguous to Siachen Glacier and then to eastern Ladakh. So there is some kind of a contiguity which is there. And that is why Pakistan wanted the line of actual control, a line of control to be extended from point, what you call is NJ9842 to Karakoram Pass. And that is how they were including the entire territory of Siachen Glacier as part of their territory. And I have been to Siachen Glacier as part of top secret mission there. And most of the expeditions, foreign expeditions, were coming to Siachen Glacier through northern areas that time. And that was de facto under the control of Pakistan till we carried out that strategic reconnaissance there, and ultimately, Indian Army went and occupied Siachen Glacier. Now, Siachen Glacier today has extreme strategic importance because it is contiguous to Shaksgam Valley, which was ceded by Pakistan to China. And on the other hand, has a proximity with eastern Ladakh, where China today is contesting or asserting for 1960 claim line. You know why that whole military posting and belligerence is claiming of this 1960 claim line. Now, this has wider strategic implications that if they come towards the 1960 claim line and they are in occupation of Dapsang Bulge and this Pagong So Lake areas, all these areas, it serves two purposes. One is that they feel threatened through Dapsang and certain areas of north of Pagongso Lake as far as the Western Highway is concerned, which connects Gilgit, which connects Xinjiang with Tibet. So there is a little bit of a defensive element there. In the same breath, I would say that their assertion here has implications for Gilgit-Baltistan, because if they have adopted a strong military posture in eastern Ladakh, that probably becomes a threat in being for any military option that India may like to exercise towards Gilgit-Baltistan. So you are killing two birds with one stone. At the same time, if you look at other military developments, Pakistan has about 3 corps which are looking after military operations in this area should there be war. They have a corps which is 10 corps which is located in Rawalpindi. They have 11 corps which is at Peshawar, and they have the third 12 corps which is located in say in area of Kohat and all that area, Bhavalpur area. In addition to that, whatever military reforms China has undertaken, they have created a Western Theater Command, which is located in Chengdu. And it has two subsets of that. One is the Tibet Military Command, and second is Xinjiang Military Command. And Xinjiang Military Command of China operates very closely with the corps of Pakistan. There is some kind of a de facto collaboration in terms of their military operations and things like that. Coupled with this is the strategic significance of Karakoram Highway. Besides being a corridor of movement of people and goods, it has tremendous security implications. And what are those implications? It's about 1,300-kilometer long highway, which has, sort of a wide road for speedy mobilization. There is a fiber optics connectivity which they have connected between Rawalpindi and Kashgar. And this highway has about 100 tunnels in it. And this can be used for speedy build-up, movement of military arsenal to Pakistan, also for some kind of a posting to pose a two-front war kind of a scenario to India. And there is also recently China has declared what they call is the Anti-Terrorism Act, under which they can deploy their forces, the PLA, on a foreign soil. And therefore, they have the capacity and the mandate to deploy some of their forces in the garb of fighting terrorism in Gilgit-Baltistan. That option also exists. There are a range of scenarios which can manifest, ranging from they've been doing joint training there in Gilgit-Baltistan. There's joint patrolling taking place, and large number of military personnel and personnel of their construction corps of China are employed in improvement of a defensive posture. And some kind of joint exercises between the Air Force and military to military of Pakistan Army and China is taking place there. In addition to that, from Chinese point of view, Siachen Glacier and Shaksgam has tremendous strategic importance by virtue of the watershed and the flow of water, glaciated water resources towards Hotan and those areas. And then experts believe that this area is very rich in silicon deposits, which is very badly needed by China for making their semiconductors and things like that. So on the whole, I would say that Pakistan and China are there to stay. And by our naming and shaming both these countries, nothing much is going to change. Therefore, we have to live with this reality. How are we going to deal with these two countries there? We have a very powerful case which has already been made out by the previous speakers, that Pakistan is in illegal occupation of Gilgit-Baltistan. Similarly, China has violated all the norms of international relationship by taking control of Shaksgam Valley, and knowing fully well that this is a disputed territory, pumping in billions of dollars in Gilgit-Baltistan and virtually forcing Pakistan to declare that as a provisional province. It is at the bidding from China that this is being done. Now, the whole approach of all of us from Jammu and Kashmir has to call this bluff. And we have to build up a very plausible narrative to put these facts before our future generation and our ignorant leaders. How we can do that, that is a thing by itself. Now, what we can do, first and foremost thing is that we have to have a strategic clarity of mind in regard to Gilgit-Baltistan. I believe that, well, people of Gilgit-Baltistan, they do not want to be part of Jammu and Kashmir. But at the same time, they want some kind of an autonomous status. At the same time, they are not very happy with Pakistan also. So therefore, if I have to take a call on how do we deal with Gilgit-Baltistan and Pak-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, first and foremost thing for us is to stabilize our own part of Jammu and Kashmir, right? If our own part of Jammu and Kashmir is not stable and there is not enduring peace and stability, we will not be able to become a role model and induce a gravitational pull towards people of Pak occupied Kashmir or Gilgit Baltistan. So, while we should be ready for some major political, developmental, governance initiatives in our part of Kashmir, and then do the development to a pitch that the people of other side automatically say that we want this model to be emulated and we want to be part of this kind of a political construct. And that has to be coupled with some strong military capabilities that we need to develop, that should opportunities come in our way there and there is a dissent and people by will want to come towards India, then of course that military capability will have to be exercised and see that we are able to reshape the entire strategic and the political geography of that region. If we do not take these steps, I think we will keep doing webinars like this, and probably the status on ground is not going to change much. So, with these words, I hand over back to Barrister Ashok Khan.
Bansab, you're on mute. Bansab, you will need to unmute yourself.
I have done that. Thank you, General Saab. You have given us the most incisive geopolitical and military perspective of this. And then finally, you came with a very political suggestion that please develop your political construct and development construct in our part of Jammu and Kashmir to that extent, so that people of Gilgit, Baltistan and Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir are attracted, not religiously, not otherwise, but on the model of development, on the model of human development, human resource towards you as part of you. And then you said that we have to build up more and more political construct plus military capabilities to be on hold for a very big role in this area. And we have a stake in this area, therefore, to keep that stake intact and without diluting the stake in that area, we need to be firm and resolute in our understanding and political management plus military operations.